Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to today's coverage of the Kyoto 500 Round 7 of the 2023 Trackstars Touring Car Series. Of course, we are live here from the Kyoto Driving Park, and today we'll be using the Yamagiwa circuit. Of course, there's been a little bit of controversy during the week with a late change to the circuit. Of course, this event was originally scheduled to be contested at the high speed ring, but obviously in some early track inspections, the staff at the Trackstars Racing Series did discover that the track was unsuitable to compete on, and the last minute decision had been made to switch circuits. Of course, all drivers getting plenty of practice time throughout the week with 3 2-hour practice sessions, and then of course a 40-minute qualifying session on Friday night before the top 10 shootout yesterday afternoon. As has been the case across the season, it has been the number 95 Itz Racing eSports Nissan, usually piloted by Hamza, who has been leading the way. And he has been joined by Andrew Lee for qualifying, but unfortunately Lee has come down with an illness, so he's been parked for the rest of the weekend and out of action. And then in his place has been Barbara, also known as Distinct Twitchy, probably one of the leading drivers in Australia on Gran Turismo 7, so that'll be a very formidable combination. And then of course a number change for the CP Motorsports 12, being changed to number 1, of course, Jackson Austin, also known as Speedy Tyres, joining the team for the endurance races, and of course as the defending champion, earning the right to carry the number 1 in the Trackstars Touring Car Series. So he will be carrying the number 1 for the CP Motorsports team in their Nissan, and also parking on the front row. Of course, every team was represented in the top 10 shootout yesterday, which is a very strong feat. So cars lined up on the grid at the moment. We're about 12 minutes away from the race start. Another former series champion in Dan Wood joining the grid as well, returning to the CP Motorsports team that he's raced with for the last few years. And he's partnered up with Jerome O'Shea, so both CP Motorsports cars on the first 2 rows, so they'll be a very formidable pairing and a very formidable team across the endurance races. And there we have Aidan Holden, or Captain Muffin, also joining the grid. Last year's St. Croix 1500 champion, and he is now over at WTC Racing, filling in a vacancy that was there. The WRT car up inside the top 5 this weekend, a very strong showing from the team, and they'll be looking to capitalise on their great form so far and maybe turn it into a great result in the race. And of course, the other big news in the last few weeks is Nick Patasso rejoining the field as a full-time driver for the rest of the season. So the Mash Spuds Racing owner and team manager rejoining the grid to see out the rest of the season. I think he's only missed 1 or 2 races, so he's well and truly in championship contention should things fall his way. And of course, Lashbrook joining him on the 4th row as well. You could say that MSR have been one of the strongest teams for the Lexus campaigners, along with WTC Racing. They've both been really fighting amongst each other, trying to take the fight up to the Nissans of Itz Racing eSports. And then obviously at the back of the field is the number 96 Itz Racing Nissan of Palmer and Matt Simmons. Unfortunately, both drivers were unavailable for qualifying, and so they have been forced to start from the rear of the grid in this one. Of course, it's a long 500 kilometres, and certainly from 14th position anything is possible still. I mean, we did see Shane Van Gisbergen in the Sandown 500 last week go from 19th to 3rd, so anything is possible throughout this race. Any one of these teams can come through the field or be shuffled back and even rejoin up the front. We'll now cross down to the grid, as we'll have the playing of the Australian National Anthem before we get the race underway. So there we go, stage is set. 102 laps of the Kyoto Driving Park Yamagiwa circuit. 15 turns on this circuit layout. 4.912 kilometres is the track length. As you can see on the top right of the screen, there is your track layout. A sweeping corner of turn number 1. And then immediately into a nice little S's section of turns 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then a blast up the straight heading towards probably the fastest turn in the corner, a sweeping left-hander that you'd probably take well over 200 kilometers an hour, and then the run down the hill after this slight right-hand kink into the chicane at the bottom of the hill. Very easy to catch drivers out, and then a sweeping run up towards a tight hairpin. A variety of drivers taking it in different gears, anywhere from 1st to 3rd gear depending on how your gear ratios are set up. And then that takes the end of sector 3, and then it's a sweeping corner to the right, and then a quick flick to the left through our final chicane, and then run to the final corner, of course, the last hairpin on the circuit. An important run onto the final, out of the final corner to set the start of your lap up and get a good finish to the end of the lap. So now 5 minutes until the race start. Give everyone a quick rundown of some points before we head into our starting lineup. Of course, leading the way in the championship at the moment is Ridwan Hamza. He's very much in charge of the championship on 1,775 points. Over 230 points ahead of his Itz Racing eSports teammate of Ryan Palmer. And in third position in the championship, it's O'Shea, who is around behind Hamza. In fourth place, it's Walker for WRT Motorsport. Fifth is Hardcore and Ward, the RoboSport Racing pairing. And then we have Oldman for WRT in seventh place. Eighth is Lashbrook. Ninth is Lansdale, who's no longer in the series. And then rounding out the top 10 is Scott, both drivers in 9th and 10th. Missing a round already. Looking at the point score, Patasso has missed 2 rounds, but of course he'll get 2 drop rounds at the end of round 12 that will probably bring him back into the fight a bit. And in the team's championship, it's Itz Racing eSports leading the way from WTC Racing, and then Mash Spuds Racing in third. Fourth is WRT Motorsports, CP Motorsports fifth. 6 RoboSport Racing, and then ISA eSports, rounding out the 7 teams competing in the championship. We're a few minutes away, so let's take a quick look at the starting grid for today's Kyoto 500. Of course, on pole position, it's Hamza and Barbara, courtesy of their 1:21.906 in the top 10 shootout. Joining them on the front row is Campbell and Austin. Row number 2, O'Shea and Wood for CP Motorsports in the Nissan, and then the first of Alexis's in Scott and Halton for WTC Racing. WRT Motorsport 5th on the grid in row 3 with Walker and Dallets, and then it's Ward and Curry on the position 6 for RoboSport Racing. The 2 Mash Spuds Racing cars in 7th and 8th, with Patasso and Dowswell in 7th and Lashbrook and Sandwich in 8th. Then we go into row number 5, Von Duve and Bazincic having a 2-place penalty, dropping in the 9th, and then Mario and Rudd for the ISA eSports number 34, missing the top 10 shootout. Then outside top 10 we've got Harcourt and Burke for RoboSport Racing, and then Oldman and Auden in 12th place for WRT. And then the 2 cars that didn't qualify on Friday night, Kostarock and Diu, who's now being replaced. I'll have to get the name of that one. And then Palmer and Simmons as well in 14th, rounding out the field. So we are moments away from the start of the race. I think, there we go, Kabinski is the driver replacing Diu in the ISA eSports number 55. In the field now just a minute away from starting the race. So here we go, the start sequence being initialized here. 102 laps for the Kyoto 500 in 2023, round 7 of the Track Stars Touring Car Series, and we're underway in racing. Looks like a very even start there from Hamza and Austin, but Hamza just looking to gain the edge, although Austin still keeping to the inside of Hamza and making this interesting through turn 1. Hamza managing to get the ascendancy there as they run through the S's for the first time. And he'll hold on to the lead, but a very aggressive Austin moving alongside into this sweeper at turn 6. Trying a move around the outside, not quite making it stick. Muffin and Wood, two CP Motorsports teammates from last year, battling out for 3rd and 4th in the background. As Austin takes a look into the downhill chicane. Doesn't quite make a move, and it looks like Hamza now getting the gap he needs over Austin. As Wood closes in, looks like a move there from Patasso on the inside of Ward into the hairpin. Gets down the inside for 5th place. As Ward and Walker going side by side through the final chicane. Duvet taking a look there on the inside of Walker. As we come to the end of the first lap, Walker just getting a little bit out of shape there. And Palmer had picked up a penalty, was already up to 11th, now dropped back to 13th, and it looks like there's been an incident there with Lashbrook. He's just dropped a little bit back off the field, fortunately no damage for him. Of course, the race being split into 3 different segments to easily facilitate the driver swaps here on the Gran Turismo game. So the first part of this race will be a 17 lap sprint. And then of course 34 and then 51 laps to finish off the race. Hamza 8/10 for the second lead there over Austin. Wood in 3rd, Hulton in 4th, and then Patasso rounding out your top 5 at the moment. Walker working over the back of Patasso. Patasso's run a bit wide there and opened the door, and that promotes Walker back into the top 5. Some ferocious racing to start out this Kyoto 500. Don't know if some of the drivers are aware that we've only got about 480 so kilometres to go. Probably 490 actually. As Ward and Patasso battling it out for 6th place. Certainly providing the opportunity for Walker to get a bit further ahead. As Walker runs a bit wide there through the sweeper. Sort of allows Patasso and Ward to close back in a little bit. Although Patasso probably has a bit more to worry about from Ward. Von Duve right behind the 2 battling cars as well. We see Mario and Kabinski rounding out the top 10 for ISA eSports. Just a little bit further back in the background. And then Palmer again back up to 11th place. With Auden and Burke in 12th and 13th. Looks like a bit of an incident there for Kabinski. Just lost control on the exit of the 15th corner. Grab a quick replay of that. This round's final corner, just a bit too early on the accelerator. Manages to fortunately keep it off the wall though, so no damage to the number 55, and he'll be able to carry on without any pit stop. So that puts Palmer and the number 96 into the top 10. As the battle for the final spot inside the top 5 continues here. Walker still holding on to 5th place in the 964. With Pitasso closely tracking him. And also having to keep an eye on... Oh, Walker's run wide there through the chicane. That's going to drop him down the order. Amazingly, no damage there for the 964 car. But just the opening that Pitasso needs to jump into the top 5. And now this becomes a battle between Ward and Pitasso for 5th place. As we've got a safety car out. Is Lashbrook picking up engine damage? Let's see if we can get a replay of this one. No, it looks like we've already missed the incident in question. So unfortunately we can't get a replay of that one for you. But safety car now out on the track. So it's Hamza leading the way from Austin, Wood, Muffin and then Pitasso. With Ward in 6th. Walker in 7th, Bonduve 8th, Mario 9th, Kabinski in 10th, and we've got Burke, Auden, Palmer went into the pit lane, he picked up some damage himself, and then Lashbrook as well into the pits. So field bunching up behind safety car. Not sure what's happened there. I think Kabinski had a bit of a moment. Let's get a bit of a look here. Yes, Kabinski spinning on his own. Collecting the wall. Luckily there was a fair bit of a gap between the cars following. He was able to get back on track and still keep his position, but he might have to tour the pit lane for that one. So we're on lap 6 of 17. It is Hamza leading the way into number 95. And then our defending Trackstar's Touring Car Series champion in Austin, following behind in second. And then it's the CP Motorsports second and third place. Wood running in third at the moment in the number 50. Ashbrook receiving the wave around. Looks like there will be one lap to go and we'll get back underway racing. Wow, even the goats have a crush in the safety car. So safety car pulling into the pits. And we're back underway. Lap 8 of 17 in our first stint. Hamza leading the way from Austin. Wood a fair way back on the rest of the field. Well, on the first two runners at least. And Muffin all over the back of him. Apparently it's still under safety car. So a bit of confusion there. I definitely would have assumed that we'd be going back racing. But of course I didn't see the message that the safety car was coming in as well, so probably would have been wrong to assume that that was the case. Should make mention of the special livery being run by the MSR team. Of course, with the "It Ain't Weak to Speak" decals being displayed on the bonnet of the car in support of mental health. And certainly a great initiative there from the Match Spuds Racing crew to incorporate that as part of their livery. Safety car is coming in this time around. Looks like the field being bunched up a bit more. Pace of the safety car slowing down a bit as well. Hamza bringing them around to the final corner. We will now finally get this race restarted. Hamza accelerates out the final corner and we'll get back underway. 8 laps left in this opening stint. Hamza just weaving a little bit to get some warmth in the tyres, with Austin close behind. Aggressively looking for any way that he can get ahead into the lead of the race. So it's Hamza from Austin from Wood. Probably three of the 4 probably contenders in the Trackstar's Touring Car Series last year. Austin closing all over the back of Hamza here for the race lead. Gets a good run out of the chicane at the bottom of the hill. And still keeping within touching distance of Hamza, who ran wide at the chicane there. I think he's just gone in a bit too deep there and gained a bit of time on the way in, but lost a lot on the way out. And Austin still hassling the back of Hamza, trying to work out a way past the number 95. Wood just working behind, close in the distance. Tasso just a little bit of a gap there over Ward. Mario making his way up into 8th, ahead of Vonduve, who is all over the back of him looking for a way past. Kabinski in 10th with Palmer all over the back of him. Palmer looking to make a move down the inside into the sweeper. Can he get the job done? Yes, he does. So Palmer sweeps by, gets himself inside the top 10. As he tries to move up the order here in the opening stint of the race. Next up, it looks to be a move on Palmer through the chicane there. Lined that up brilliantly and managed to sweep around the outside on the exit. So great move there from Palmer. Made up 2 positions in the space of pretty well 2 corner complexes. We'll be very much pushing to try and make it a third to get past Vonduve. Looks like the field has spread out a little bit here, so the back end of the top 10 seems to be where the action is at the moment. Hamza just clearing out from Austin a little bit by the looks of the screen. Palmer with a great exit out of turn 1. He's got a run that's decreasing the gap here on Vonduve. Gets in the draft as he heads towards the turn 6 sweeper. Can't get enough of a run on Vonduve there to make a move stick. Say probably the next possible place to make a move would be at this hairpin. It doesn't look like he's close enough there to make any sort of meaningful move. Does get a good run on the exit, but not really an overtaking opportunity here, but an opportunity to pressure Vonduve into a mistake, which is exactly what's happened. I'm going to jump on board for a replay here. Just understeers a bit wide into the grass. Tries to gas it up, getting back on the track, and it spits him back into the wall there. So Vonduve into the pits and now down to 14th. Palmer up into 8th place, continuing his charge up the field. We head back to the front, and then Hamza got a 1 second gap over Austin. 5 laps to go in this first part of the race. Oh, a bit of a moment there for Hamza. Out of that chicane. Gets a bit loose on the corner exit as he gets on the gas. And now Austin closes back up to the back of him. With a run onto the main straight. Will be looking to set himself up for a move for the race lead. Of course, there is some bonus points on offer here for the finishing positions at the end of this first stint, so it certainly isn't meaningless by any means, making a move for the lead. There's some crucial points are on offer towards both the drivers and teams championships. In any way these co-drivers can help their full-time competitors out, will certainly be appreciated from those full-time drivers as they eagerly chase some points in the championship battle. Hamza just stretching that gap out a little bit again, out to 0.8 of a second, probably looking a little bit more comfortable now. Although, in saying that, all it takes is one mistake like we saw just a lap ago. And that margin and even the positions can be erased and it can be all for nothing. So lap 15 of 17. 3 laps to go in this first stint. It's Hamza from Austin from Wood. Halton just outside the podium places at the moment. And then Patasso in 5th. Ward all over the back of Patasso. Certainly hunting for a way past. And then Walker and Palmer. Palmer looking for a move down the bottom of the hill into the chicane. Looks to make that move stick. A little bit of contact there. As Walker certainly not giving up this position easily. Palmer going on the defensive into the turn 13 hairpin. Looks like it's just stabilised a little bit there. Palmer will now be looking to put a clean sector in and maybe establish a bit of a gap there, which he's already done. As the gap just stretches out to about a second right now. So 2 laps left. Ken Palmer maybe close into the back of Ward and Patasso and maybe try and find his way into the top 5 at the end of his stint. Given the issues he faced early on with a bit of damage and a limited number of laps he's had to come back, the top 5 result from this first stint would be a very, very good result here for Palmer. A bit of a moment there through the chicane for Patasso. Hamza continuing to lead the way. About a 1 second gap to Austin. As he comes across start finish line and begin the final lap of stint number 1. He certainly looked to control this race from the start. And you could very much say that Austin has elevated this CP Motorsports team all this week for the Kyoto 500, and that performance is continuing through this first stint as he's kept Hamza extremely honest here for the first 17 laps, basically only really 1 or 2 mistakes away from taking the race lead. But Hamza rounds the hairpin for the final time. Just has to negotiate this left-hand flick which he successfully does. Just one more corner left for Hamza in this opening stint. And he successfully navigates the final hairpin. He'll come across the line. He'll take stint number 1 here in the Kyoto 500. It'll be Austin in second place for CP Motorsports in the number 1. Wood crossing the line in third in the number 50 CP Motorsports Nissan. The 787 of Holton in fourth, and then Pitasso rounding out top 5. And then it's Ward, Palmer, Walker rounding out your top 8. Ninth is Mario. Burke will come across the line for a top 10 finish in this first stint. And then it'll be Kabinski in 11th. Then we have Auden in 12th, Von Duve 13th. And probably a bit of a stint to forget here from Lashbrook after his top 10 shootout appearance. He now finds himself down in 14th and last place after that early incident. Saving grace here though being that he does remain on the lead lap thanks to the early safety car. But it's Hamza here. I guess we could go full NASCAR and say that he's the stage 1 winner. So quick recap of the Stint 1 results. Hamza taking the win by 1.3 seconds over Austin. And then Wood completing the Stint 1 podium for CP Motorsports. And then a pair of Lexus in Halton and Pitasso in 4th and 5th. Pitasso just over 10 seconds back. Ward in the Robo Sport Racing entry in 6th. And then Palmer making his way from 14th to 7th, so halfway up the field already. And then Walker in 8th place. Then we have Mario and Chris rounding out the top 10. Chris in 10th place, or Burke as we should call him, about 27 seconds back. And then Kabinski in 11th, a late replacement in the ISA eSports number 55. And then we have Gordock in 12th, and then Von Duve and Lashbrook rounding out the field. We'll take a short break here and we'll be back with some more action, including the 34 lap stint number 2. And then that will end up concluding my time in the commentary box before I have to go and jump in the car for the 3rd and final stint. So we'll be back after a short break and we'll rejoin you for stint number 2. Alright, welcome back everyone, as we prepare to get underway with stint number 2, 34 laps the distance this time around. And of course we've got a special guest joining us in the commentary box for this stint, fresh out of his number 32 Lexus from the Mashbuds Racing team. It is of course the team owner of the MSR organisation. It's Nicholas Patasso. Welcome Nick, glad to have you here today. Yeah, you could definitely say it's a very hard track to pass on, especially probably the name lends itself to suggesting that maybe it's more of a time trial driving track in the name Kyoto Driving Park rather than racing circuit. So that might be a bit of a suggestion that maybe it's more about tackling the corners and competing against yourself rather than actually being conducive to racing here. But still, it provides some interesting racing across the layout, and there's opportunities for mistakes and good runs still to be made and overtakes. But of course I do want to talk about yourself there for a little bit. Obviously a really good first stint there from yourself, dragging yourself from 7th at the start up into top 5.
Take Walker going into turn 1, so that obviously gave me one position back, but I guess in a way I was a little bit stagnated between myself, Walker and Ward. It was just the three of us just battling quite a fair bit. It's like one mistake from either one of us and that would send us to the rear or send us to the back of the pack. So unfortunately it happened to who is your teammate in Walker. That happened to him on the second chicane down the bottom of the hill, so he just ran a little bit wide, clipped the barrier. Don't think he got any damage out of that, I'm not too sure. But yeah, it's very unlucky for Walker, but he's got some really good pace, and that car 964 I think it's going to be a really dark horse at the end of this Kyoto 500, so keep an eye on that, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, happy with the 2 positions made, and also great to have my good buddy in Ollie Dowswell back in the MSR family and back in the MSR car. If no one knows from previous history at Trackstars, he was one of the original members of Mashbuds Racing in 2020 when he joined alongside myself to create the Mashbuds Racing organisation. And with him, he's been part of the team since then. Took a sabbatical once GT7 came out, and from there, he came back doing a very good job in the Le Mans 8-hour, and now he's back in for the Enduro, so it's great to have him, and it's great to see a familiar name back in Trackstars as well.
Yeah, I can certainly echo those sentiments, that it's very nice to have Punts back in the starting field here at Kyoto and back with us at Trackstars. Certainly have missed his presence on the racetrack here, and yeah, certainly enjoying having him back. Of course, I do remember him joining the series. I think it was the second round at Bathurst in 2020, and he certainly stamped his mark there immediately with a race win. And I think there was a great battle between, of course, himself and you. I think we ran side by side through the chase. It was brilliant to watch back on the stream, and I'm sure our commentator at the time, Adam Weller, really enjoyed watching that and talking about it.
Yeah, it was a very good time. I believe he actually had to do the pre-qualify. I think that's when we actually introduced pre-qualifying races, and I remember he had to qualify through race 1 and race 2 just to get himself onto the grid. And I believe he won his first, qualified pole and won his first race on debut. So not many people can do that in Trackstars Racing Series nowadays with a stacked TS2, TS3 grid, and even in the main series, if you're a rookie, it becomes very tricky to, I guess, in a way, make a name for yourself. We definitely see a lot of drivers this year have strong capabilities. Rookies such as Lashbrook, I believe as well. Mario is going to be is the newest rookie joining the ISA camp. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of work to see, that potential driver. Maybe we'll see someone like that in 2024 when we have potential new teams joining us or returning team joining us at Trackstars Racing Series. So once Ryan gets everything sorted, we might be able to get this 34 lap stint race underway. So I guess, Jarman, obviously you're the one that that organised this Kyoto 500. So what is the reason why we have 34 laps here for stint 2?
So 34 laps actually does work out to being exactly 1/3 of the 102 lap race distance. So the drivers that do compete in this 34 lap stint, obviously if they basically complete the whole stint, then that satisfies the requirement for the minimum laps, and so that gets that out of the way. But we've basically mirrored what we had with High Speed Ring last year, where we basically went like half race distance for the final stint, and then made sure that there was one stint where drivers could get 1/3 of the race out of the way, and then the other stint makes up the other half of the race. So the teams can play it two different ways. Basically, they can have a 50-50 split between the drivers if they feel that both drivers are equally capable as each other and have the same race speed, or they can go for one driver that maybe they believe is a little bit slower, can do just the minimum laps, and then the other driver that they believe is faster can sort of take on the maximum amount of laps possible and try and get themselves in the best possible position for the race throughout the event.
Yeah, exactly right. So obviously we will see some drivers on the grid doing that double stint. From what I can see, it looks like we are ready to go. It looks like the grid has been sorted out. So obviously, with Goat being at the front of the field, he will be leading the pack for this opening stint, as we treat it as a safety car deployment. So as soon as he gets the field past the exit of, I believe it is turn to 12, I think it's the first hairpin, turn 11. I have to look back through my notes to see what corner is that first hairpin at the top of the hill. But once he goes past that part of the track, he'll be able to go lights out, and then the leader, which I think is the car 95 in Hamza. So Hamza is one of the drivers so far. It looks to be doing a double stint here. So very interesting tactic here by the Itz Racing Championship leader here, Jarman. So what do you know about the insights of the intel of Hamza's double stint in the first couple of events, or couple of races rather?
Yeah, so it looks like, I think this has been a similar strategy that our team went for last year, where sort of one driver does the first half of the race and the other driver does the second half. So looks like Hamza and both Palmer are going for that strategy, that they'll complete the first half of the race, get their minimum laps done, and obviously contribute with their 50%. And then for the second half, of course, you'll see Barbara and Matt Simmons joining the team, joining the grid and completing the rest of the race, and obviously jumping in the cars. So we've got Hamza doing a double stint here. Campbell is jumping in the car number 1 to complete his laps in this stint alongside with O'Shea. So I imagine that it'll be Wood and Austin finishing off the race. Muffin getting his first half of the race out of the way, so you'd expect that Scott will be jumping in the car for the final half of the race. And then Dowswell as well jumping into your car for his stint. And then we've got Curry as well. So you'd say that Ward will finish off the race. Simmons, of course, as we mentioned earlier. Then myself jumping in for Walker. Then it'll be Gabans. Trying to remember who the other driver is for I think that was...
Craig Hardcore.
Yep, so Craig, he'll be completing that one. Of course, oh yes, Mr. Team Manager of RoboSport Racing at the moment. And then obviously Gabans, Oldman. And then I'm trying to... Yeah, Von Duve finish it off. And Lashbrook
rounding up the rear of the field.
So getting back underway here at the Kyoto 500. So first lap complete, of course, under the safety car. And Hamza getting those heat into the tyres as he heads into turn 1. And this time it's Campbell following behind instead of Austin, but still the same car as we head through the S's for the first time.
So Hamza's got a very good jump there, very good launch there by the 95. Right behind them is Campbell and O'Shea. So your two top contenders in this championship series, with both O'Shea and Campbell your full-time drivers. Obviously setting themselves up for the long haul, for the short stint here tonight, actually I'll say afternoon, I always keep thinking we're racing at night time, but we're racing in the morning. Walker goes for an inside move on Ollie Dalzell, doesn't pull it off through the first chicane here as we lead through for the first time. It is lap 2 of 34, but obviously the drivers are starting to get their tyres warmed up. You can see Palmer looks like he's gone through nicely on Dalzell. We see a few little incidents behind there. Looks like Mario looks like has caused himself a bit of a kerfuffle there. We're sitting up nicely in P9, the car 34, so unfortunately for him, maybe he made a mistake coming down. Oh no, he's actually made it up towards the top of the hill, but he keeps it, 360, keeps the car on track there. Very good car control by Mario, gets passed by Doc in 10th place. But we can see a few early mistakes here. We can see Dalzell's dropping down the field there. What's going on with car 32? Looks like he's made a mistake. Coming onto the final corner here. Looks like he just may have run the car a little bit deep. They went for a move on Palmer, but I think it's just the traction zone. Yeah, it's the traction, unfortunately. So just loses out traction. Does he pick up damage? No, he doesn't. So a bit of a tentative start there for the man returning to the Trackstars Touring Cars field in Dalzell. But so far, Hamza leads the way ahead of Campbell and ahead of O'Shea. Muffin, the second driver, doing the double stint in 4th place. Curry up into 5th, and Palmer already up into P6.
Yeah, nice little battle here going on. Obviously, looks like Campbell just possibly the cork in the bottle here. Muffin getting out of control through the S's, and that's seen him drop down the order. He's down to 6 now. That's opened the door for Palmer. He's made a move here on Curry into the hairpin. Got the job done up into 4th place. So very opportunistic driving there for Palmer, and really getting the move done and taking advantage of anything that pops up in front of him. And that was probably a very necessary move. Now he can focus on the 2 CP Motorsports cars ahead of him and try and get himself on the podium.
So the CP Motorsport boys are the meat filling in an Itz Racing sandwich, with Hamza first, Palmer back up into 4th place after starting last in stint 1, ladies and gentlemen. So this car 96 did not qualify and did not participate in the top 10 shootout. So we knew this car would be the dark horse for the latter stages of the race there. So we're going to be very excited to see what it's going to be like. I mean, my goodness, it's going to be a stacked stint 3, gentlemen. You're going to have Guy Barbara replacing Hamza. You're going to have Jackson Austin in the car number 1, the defending Trackstars Touring Cars champion in the CP garage. You're going to have Dan Wood in P3 potentially, and as well, he just runs wide, saves it though, so good recovery there. Dan Wood will be taking that place back into P3, and then you're going to have Matt Simmons in that car 96 there. So what a stacked stint 3 what we have. But we are in stint 2, the top 4 led by CP and Itz Racing. Right behind them is a battle for, you can say, for the best of the rest. It's WTC versus RoboSport Racing. Curry goes for the move on Muffin. A nice move there at the hairpin. And right behind there is what we see there, Walker go for a move on Burke. So the WRT boys looking very good in this early stages of stint 2, up into P7. And then we have the 2 ISA eSports drivers behind there, with Mario in 9th, and in 10th place I believe that is Rudd, I think.
It's Kabinski. So Rudd will No, Rudd will finish off for Mario, I believe, and then Gabans for Kavinsky.
There we go. So very good outing here by Kavinsky here after a late change for car 55 as early as in the early hours this morning at 7 o'clock Australian Eastern. The main man that leads the ISA eSports camp here at Trackstars, Kostarox, unfortunately said his co-driver in Dew, the Frenchman living in New Caledonia, has unfortunately had to withdraw his entry due to a technicality in his console. Oh, I should say that Kavinsky just gets the dirty air effect, keeps the car on the track there, so very good car control by the Polish driver in Kavinsky. But yeah, so unfortunately Jude couldn't make it for the race this afternoon, and we've had to call in a replacement driver under special consideration with Kavinsky being in the pro class in the 2023 Porsche Cup. Setting himself a very nice time there in the circuit experience, having some good races as well. And the man that won 6 races in a row in the TS3 Touring Cars Championship has now promoted himself up into the TS2 field, and under special consideration is eligible to race for the main series here tonight in regards to replacing Dew. So we're going to have a nice. So I'd be interested to see how he actually goes in TS2 next time out when they go to Bathurst next weekend.
Yeah, of course, the performance in the circuit experience, and then of course the Porsche Cup races last night or last evening, certainly obviously been taking into consideration quite a serious management, so it's good to see that he has agreed to make a step up as well, and of course complement that with a endurance race drive here in the Trackstars Touring Car Series. As we see Campbell still pacing the rest of the field, as Hamza has just cleared out to over a 6-second lead over to everybody else, as you see him off in the distance there on the exit of the hairpin heading towards that final chicane. Meanwhile, Campbell just coming under a bit of pressure from O'Shea, and then of course there's Palmer, Curry, Muffin, all just close in behind, waiting to pounce on any mistake made by anyone in this group. And then of course you've got Walker and Burke in the background as well.
Yeah, very congested P2 all the way down to P8, so very close racing here. With unfortunately the cork in the bottle is Campbell in P2 as we go on board with the 96 from 15th all the way up to P4. He's going to look to go for an outside move on O'Shea. I don't think you want to be taking risks this early on. We also have to remind our viewers there is no compulsory pit stop, so 34 laps is the full race distance. Obviously they would have used that extra lap under the safety car just to save a bit of fuel, save a bit of tyres, but we'll wait and see if anyone is actually game enough to come into the pit lane, maybe put on some fresh medium tyres and probably make a late charge towards the end of the race. I don't think anyone within the top 8 might, but we could see a surprise later on in this stint. But Palmer in 4th place. Not far behind is Mitch Curry, the 2023 Formula 2 champion, and also the lead, one of the lead contenders in the Trackstars TS2 Touring Cars field, has earned his eligibility. Unfortunately, just gets passed there by Curry. We did see him have a bit of a moment on the exit of the first chicane. So it's good to see Curry in the field with us tonight. And right behind him is Walker. So this is very surprising here, Charmin. I know you are the co-driver of Walker, but he's really keeping up with these guys. I even saw it within the first stint. The pace that he's shown, at least throughout 2023, has been absolutely incredible, and he's showing his performances tonight, sitting 7th place behind Curry and not too far behind the pack, battling for P2.
Yeah, he's been doing an excellent job so far, so hopefully we don't curse him, touch wood. But yeah, he's been doing a great job so far and really mixing it up with Curry there. I know I've sort of been working with these guys during the week, not only Walker but also Gordok and Soul Reaper, or as we know him, Old Man, and sort of obviously been sending setups like their way, a few track guides, that sort of thing, just sort of trying to help them out as much as possible and try and get them a bit better up to speed and be even more competitive.
And he almost became so competitive there, going around the outside of Mitch Curry there in car 20. That would have been a spectacular move there by Walker, but unfortunately just didn't have enough grip, just lost a little bit of grip on the exit of the second sweep. But as we see a move up ahead, I think Palmer has actually dropped behind Muffin, so something happened on the exit of the chicane there. So Palmer's just been demoted down to P5. Muffin is still going to hold on to P4, and Muffin, Captain Muffin, as known as Aidan Holton in car 787, is now ahead of the 96. So great job to get himself back up into where he started this second stint. So we'll be interested to see where Scott ends up in all of this when he does the final stint there. As we can see, a beautiful move there, just full commitment in the Lexus RCF, parks it on the apex so Palmer couldn't do the switchback. And very nice driving there for the experienced man who goes from Nissan to Honda to now in the Lexus. So at least he's driven all three cars at least once in his Trackstars Racing Series campaign. And
he's definitely been fast in all of them as well. So great testament to the talents of Holton. And as I said behind the scenes earlier before we went live in the coverage to Nick, I said to him that basically if there was a Group 2 wheelbarrow, I think that Muffin would probably be able to make that one go fast as well.
Oh, he's just made a mistake on the exit there, so Palmer might be able to return serve going up into the hairpin. So Palmer on the inside. Muffin Holton unfortunately just got a little bit loose there. He holds it around the outside. He's got extra grip there, but he just has to tuck back in. Not enough momentum to get himself into the second chicane there. So a nice little revenge move there for Palmer. Obviously a very clean race between these two boys, but will we see a late move into the final corner? Holton's going to stick back, but back up into P4 as Palmer, and demoted is Holton. I've just lost it on the chicane there, and I feel like that's where all these cars have been struggling, not just the Lexus, but the Nissan as well. Just struggles a little bit through those fast chicanes here as well, Jarman. So any little nervy, twitchy moments that you have on your car, you can definitely ruin the exit speed, and that's where you gain a lot of time and lose time as well. Yeah,
I think all cars through those, I would say the chicane at the bottom of the hill and then the one at the end of the lap, they're both very tricky, and you really need to get probably your rhythm through those sections spot on, or you'll just end up... Whoa, there's chaos unfolding here.
We saw a massive incident. That is O'Shea. O'Shea went spinning around in the background there. He's down to P7. He hasn't got engine damage, so obviously we did see an engine damage call in the first stint, which was unfortunately in the hands of Lashbrook. But, that's a cruel blow for O'Shea and Dan Wood in car 50. We'll have to try and see if we can scoop up a replay from our camera crew, but that was a huge moment there by O'Shea. He just ran wide, as we got it right now, thanks to our cameraman. Let's see what happens. Oh, he didn't run wide. It just clipped the end of the curbing there. That's so unlucky.
Yeah, and in amongst that, Palmer probably ran even wider than what O'Shea did, and probably got out of it a lot better, but still lost a spot there to Holton. So Holton up into third at the moment.
Yeah. That was
Palmer
great awareness there by
a few seconds back. He hasn't picked up damage though, but might just have dirty tyres for a little bit, so he'll have to try and hold off Walker and Curry while he gets himself back together, and then maybe mounts another charge towards Muffin and Campbell in front.
Yeah, very lucky there for Palmer not to pick up any damage, because like you said, he did go wide there. And here comes Walker. He's going to try and go for the outside, which we saw a few laps ago. He couldn't pull it off with Curry. He's still holding on very nicely to the rear of the 96 there, and Curry's not too far behind. These guys are less than separated by literally within I would say about the length of a pencil. I would say if you put a pencil next to the screen at home, you could just see there, it'll just be so close to each other. But Curry looks like he's shaping up a move on Walker. He doesn't think about it. He's going to lose a little bit of time, but Walker does run a bit wide. Does Curry have the momentum? Does he have the traction coming out of there? He doesn't, so he's going to have to tuck back in behind car 964. That gives Palmer a little bit of breathing room now, so now he can set his sights for Holton in P3. But wow, that was a very hairy moment there.
Yeah, Curry making a move there on Walker into the final corner. Doesn't quite get enough, but maybe get the slipstream down the main straight here and a run into turn one. as he's tucked behind the rear wing, moves out to the left, gets himself down the inside, but Walker very much holding firm here on the outside.
Oh, contact made between the two. They're going to go side by side through here. It's very sketchy here. Well, can we see it executed nicely there? Unfortunately, no. Looks like Walker's just clipped it, unfortunately. So it is very it's very hard to go side by side through the S-bends, and unfortunately for Walker, who's picked up from some front splitter damage. That is so unlucky there. Both drivers trying to give each other some equal room there. Oh, Curry just drifted a little bit understeer on the car 20 there, so Walker will be absolutely fuming behind the helmet of the WRT. He drops behind Burke into P7. He's going to lose another position potentially to Mario right behind him, but that is such a cruel blow for WRT after such a promising start on lap 12 of 34.
Yeah, it's certainly not the scenario that you'd like to see play out for WRT, but of course, still a long way to go in this race, and plenty of time left to salvage something of a result. Let's see what Walker manages to do. Does he decide to go into the pits? It might be a better option just to duck in, get those fresh tyres, repair the damage, and regain that time a bit later on.
Absolutely, I would have done the exact same thing because I thought it was only front splitter damage. It actually turns out to be some front right suspension damage as well on his car. So, yeah, there's no choice for him. I probably would be the same with O'Shea. He would have had to have come into the pit lane and fixed his car up. But as we look down further down the grid, we see Mario down in 7th place. We see Budsy right behind there in 8th place. He's actually come from well down the order. I think the car 117 finished 13th. In stint 1, he's dragged that car back up into P8, and as part of the as he was part of the MSR family last time out, he's got his good mate and good rival in Ollie Dalzell right behind him. So these the two teammates, the two MSR family right behind him in 8th and 9th place, battling it out on lap 13 of 34. But that's a very good recovery drive there for car 117 in the WTC entry between Budsy and Von Duve.
Yeah, of course. I think they were down in 13th, and yeah, Von Duve had a bit of a tough time there early on in the first stint, so certainly something that he'll be looking to recover from, and getting up to 8th is probably a good start with that. I'm just seeing here that obviously Walker just coming out a little bit ahead of O'Shea here out of the pits, and it looks like he's started to gain a bit of time on that first lap around, so could be interesting to see how this plays out here. You would expect O'Shea to maybe mount a charge here on Walker, but who knows, maybe there's a bit of an improved performance here. Walker probably rising to the occasion a bit.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised with that. O'Shea actually didn't get the jump over Walker, but probably that's because of the case that when O'Shea actually got his initial damage only a few laps ago, I think Walker was already past him at that point of reference. So probably that's the reason why Walker is just ahead of O'Shea, with O'Shea on those going for that essential undercut on Walker. Obviously not on purpose. Obviously that wasn't the strategy for car 50, we don't think. So unfortunately for him, he's dropped outside of the top 10. As we can see, Doc has come into the pit lane now, so it looks like he's picked up some front splitter damage, unfortunately for the car, for car 151 in Ordock and behind the reel there. So not the start that he wanted. Sandwith right behind there in car 11 after having that engine damage in stint 1. He's down in 13th place as well. So Les trying to catch up and try to do what he can to get car 11 towards the front there. But this battle pack, Palmer's really caught up to this pack here, Jarman, and this is going to be very spicy. Palmer's looking for the inside onto Holton going into the second sweeping corner. Does he hold the inside line? Can Holton hold it around the outside? Oh, it's very close. It's very tight, and he holds it though. Palmer just clips the curbing onto the grass a little bit. He's going to dirty his tyres leading up into the first chicane here at Kyoto, Yamagiwa, the driving park circuit here at Japan. Oh, he gets out of shape there on the exit off the first chicane. was very tentative there for Ryan Palmer. I think those dirty tyres just played a little bit of a X factor there for him. So he's lost a little bit of ground to the top two. To Campbell and Holton, which now Holton's trying to put a move on Campbell. But I will say, with all the pressure that he's got, Campbell's doing a fantastic job. Lap 15 on 34. He might think to himself, he might not be the quickest out of this leading pack here, as we see that his gap between himself and Ridwan is just over 10 seconds. But he's doing a fantastic job nonetheless in car number 1. There's all sorts of under pressure from Holton. Holton is tucked into that rear wing. He pulls out, goes for the inside move on Campbell. Can he hold it stick? Will Campbell be able to hold around the outside on lap 16 or 34? He might just lose it to Holton. Holton's going to squeeze him onto the exit. He does. Holton up into P2. Campbell now back into P3 with all pressure from Palmer right behind there. These guys are inseparable, Jarman, as they come into the second chicane here. Palmer looking for an inside move on Campbell as he goes side by side. He takes the move cleanly, well ahead of Campbell. Campbell had to put the white flag out. He couldn't hold it anymore. Palmer again runs it onto the grass. He might be compromised in going to the first chicane here. We'll wait and see what happens to Campbell right behind. Can he get himself a little bit more extra grip on that number 1? He doesn't. He just can't get enough. And the dirty air played effect there. So Campbell goes from 2nd to 4th in the matter of a few seconds here on lap 16 of 34. But some great racing up ahead here for the Kyoto 500.
We were just singing Campbell's praises, and unfortunately in probably the space of about 6 corners, he's been shuffled back from 2nd to 4th. And probably some good driving there from, Holton, Palmer and Campbell. Campbell just having a bit of awareness there not to make too much of a fight out of it and sort of just hold steady, not make too much of a big fight out of things and sort of continue on his way in the race. Palmer now probably will be having his sights set on Holton for position 2. As we are now on lap 17 of 34 in this second stint.
So as we have our praises with Hamza in first place, his teammate in Ryan Palmer's doing an absolutely a great job. He's setting the purple first sector there, but he's really applying the pressure on Holton in P2 there. So if he's able to keep this car where it should be at the end of this stint, I would say that'll be a really top drive there. As we see, is that someone leaving the lobby or maybe just someone entering the lobby?
that's a disconnection.
Oh, not so sure who that could have been.
That was Kabinski.
Oh, okay. So we'll have to wait and see what the call is on that. Unfortunately, with Kabinski getting a DNF or not finishing the race, whether he's got some engine damage or he's got some sort of component failure in his at home. But we'll have to wait and see if he does come back into the lobby, just to confirm that it was a disconnect here. So we'll wait for protocols here at Trackstars Racing Series. But so far, we'll wait to see what happens with Kabinski. But it's Hamza over Holton, over Palmer. Curry's now up into P4, making the move on Campbell. Campbell drops down to P5. Burke in 6. 7th place goes to Mario. And then we have Budsy right behind inside the top 8 with Ollie Dalswell behind in 9th place. Walker in 10th and O'Shea in 11th. And we'll have to wait and see what happens with Kabinski, whether they retired the car, whether they've had to put the car in the garage for the second stint and waiting for Costa Rock to try and get themselves into this second race.
I'll just ask the question just in case it's been forgotten about, but yeah, obviously in the briefing and the regulations there was the provisions that if someone does drop out, that we do red flag the race and get them back in.
Yeah, just confirmation here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Dominic Kabinski did suffer a component failure on his car 55, so the car will be back onto the grid then, and it is going to be a red flag here on lap 39 of 34. So hang tight with us here, Trackstars Racing family. We will try to get ourselves the grid sorted out very shortly. So all the drivers, the protocol here is drivers just have to go past Sector 1 and just line up behind each other. So that way we can sort out the grid for Race 2. We'll be only having about 25 more laps until the end of this stint here. So I guess in a way it can help a few drivers here, Jarman. So O'Shea especially down in P9. Walker in 10th place, and even the likes of Dowswell and Sandwith right behind as well. So we could see some potential movers and shakers in this on this safety car restart.
Yeah, just getting a quick order for everyone as they cross the line. So that should... There we go. All the drivers currently in the race crossing the line, so I'll get those screenshots and then that way we can get them to Brian so he can reset the order. So at the moment we have Hamza in the lead from Halton, and then it's looks like Curry in third. That should be Palmer. So yeah, that'll be Curry in fourth, Campbell 5th, Birkin 6th, and then Mario 7th.
Yeah, it looks like Palmer is just counting the orders there, just trying to make sure everyone's in their right positions here. But obviously we have, now we're just trying to make it official. So that way, once we have our grid, we'll be able to save it, and now we'll be able to get ourselves into a red flag situation. So we will be waiting for Kubinski, who has now rejoined the lobby, and we'll get him back onto the grid very shortly. So very unfortunate there for Kubinski, where he was doing really well in the early stages of this second stint, and for him as well, just doing a good job as a late minute substitute as well, Jarman. You have to remember that, no preparation at all for the Polish driver who resides himself in the UK, which I found out actually earlier on. So, but I guess in a way, if he is on his main series debut, and it's great to see, and we are very excited to see, as I said, like early in the broadcast, we're excited to see what he can do. But we do care for our drivers. One unfortunate disconnect, I guess in a way helps everyone. Just have a bit of fun. Everyone gets involved in the racing series here at Trackstars, but unfortunately for that car, it will be put a lap down for car 55. So hopefully at the start of stint 3, they will potentially try to get their lap back in stint 3, and they will be putting themselves back on the lead lap in stint 3, all being with no mistakes in Kubinski's hands, with only a 17-lap race, which will be the safety car restart, which will then give us 16 laps to go until the end of this one. So we will set the grid up. So our host Ian Palmer will set the grid up. So he did a very good job there. Did Palmer have made a few little escapades through the second fast sweeper and at the top of the hill there on the exit there, just caught the curbing and cutting some grass. I did see a comment from Brian DJ Mowing. Unfortunately, he's not in a Honda anymore. He's in the Datsun Mowing, I guess you could say it. But yeah, as we called it, we might see some potential comebacks here with O'Shea down in 9th place, Walker in 10th. So we'll be keeping an eye on those two once we get our restart underway. But Jarman, I mean, what can you say about Hamza? He's just absolutely cleared away. A red flag is definitely not what he wanted, but with a guy in here like him, in these sorts of pressure, he can definitely withstand it, and we will see him potentially run away from the field again, but he's got some fast drivers behind him.
Yeah, he's been putting on a clinic so far in this race and also across the season. I mean, probably in that last stint, or the first stint of the race, is probably the closest really anyone's gotten to him other than Von Duve taking the win from him at Road Atlanta. So he's been the form driver of the series so far this year, or especially in the touring cars at least. Over on the Formula side, it was Pat Trappett who was very much our dominant driver this year. But yeah, Hamza's very much taken the reins of this championship and looks on course to basically take the series win so far, unless it all falls apart in the second half of the season.
So we have Ryan Tame leading the field ahead of Ridwan under this safety car restart. Right behind him, Aidan Holton in car 787 double stinting that entry, as well as Ryan Palmer. So the top three all double stinting their cars before they give it to their main event drivers in both Barbara, Andrew Scott and Matt Simmons respectively. Right behind is Mitchell Curry in car number 20, handing that car back to Ian Ward. And then right behind them is Campbell. Well, what can we see from Campbell here? Maybe he might be able to come through with a late charge and try and help Austin get himself back up towards the front of the field. And then behind him is Burke. Chris Burke will be giving the reins to Craig Hardcore right behind. DP Mario, a bit of a dark, a bit of a flying under the radar here, still holding on inside the top 8. So very good job here by D Mario, who's going to be who is actually officially making his main series debut in this race. So from TS2 all the way up to the main series, great to see. Budsy right behind in 9th place, or in 8th place it will be, and then O'Shea. What can we see from car 50 in these with 16 laps to go? Walker in 10th. We have Ollie Dowswell and Les Samwith 11th and 12th. Right behind them is Gordock in 13th, and then unfortunately the unfortunate disconnects and red flag setter in Kabinski down in 14th and last place. So won't be fighting for position because that car will be a lap down, but at the next stint he'll be able to get his car back up towards the grid. And as we are ready to go, it is Hamza leading the pack here on lap 20 of 34. Lap 19 of 34. It is going to be Hamza leading Holton and Palmer going into the first corner. So he's got a good gap again. So with Hamza getting himself some good starts here, but runs wide on turn 1. So compromised his entry and exit with Holton behind in P2, Palmer P3. As it is as we started here on lap 19 of 34. Hamza over Holton, over Palmer, your top 3.
Looks like Holton had a bit of a move there on Hamza, but probably more of an intimidation tactic rather than a meaningful attempt at an overtake, just to sort of get himself in the mirrors and sort of maybe cause a bit of confusion on the radar. But it looks like Hamza's remained calm here and is now going to start working towards building that lead over Holton and his teammate Palmer. Palmer certainly be looking to try and make his way past Holton. He's done it a couple of times, but in due course has always given it back to Holton, so maybe he'll be looking to try and finally make a move stick and hold on to that second place.
Exactly right. So the top 8 is as it stands, as we were on the red flag situation, and all the way up here onto lap 20 of 34. We still have the 96 leading the way, so the top 8 still the same. We've seen a few moves there by Mario, just faking left, faking right, back to the left, can't make the move stick. But we can see there, Walker's gone up into P9 ahead of O'Shea here, so this is some very good confidence here. Walker in 9th, as we see there. Samwith unfortunately gets called out there in car 11. That's put him down to the rear of the field there, well behind the rest of the pack there, sitting 12th actually, so definitely it must be a driver error here, unless he caught too much curbing on the inside line, maybe too much power, too much understeer. We'll find out in due course. Oh no, snap oversteer.
Yeah, that was a strange one, although I think he just hooked that curb there on the exit, and it might have just dragged him around a little bit.
unlucky for car 7 and for Sam with, unfortunately, on his hand there, but the battle still resumes there. Hamza pulling away in the early stages before the red flag, cannot pull away so far. What if he's trying to save his tyres and go for that late charge towards the end and set those personal bests and fastest laps of the race there? But Hamza still holds on to P1. Holton's not giving up. He wants to try and get that 787 Lexus up towards the front for WTC Racing. Runs it wide on turn 15. And might give Palmer an opportunity to try and tuck underneath that rear wing of the Lexus, get him some slipstream, but he's still far behind there. But you can see there the top 3 is well clear of the driver in 4 players, which is Mitch Curry in 4th, Campbell right behind in 5th, Burke doing a great job. So RoboSport Racing inside the top 6, so that's a great comeback for RoboSport. The man in Robert and Richard Robertson doing a really good job managing that team. Then we have the ISA eSports driver in Di Mario in 7th, and as well still Budsy holding on into P8. As now he's actually been overtaken by Walker around the outside of that corner. He's trying to make that move work for him, Jarman. He's done it a few times on a couple of the lead drivers. He couldn't make it work, but he's made it work on Buzzy. He's up inside the top 8. This is a remarkable recovery drive for Walker.
He's gone sideways a bit.
He just gets a bit sideways on the exit there on the second chicane. Can Budsy go for an outside move here, or will he just try and hold that car into position, tuck back in underneath the rear wing? He does. Now he has to fend off from O'Shea right behind him. But great recovery drive so far for Walker after he did pick up some damage earlier on.
Yeah, let's get a look at this overtake here. He's actually gone to the inside. Budsy really on the defensive there, but just leaves that car width for Walker to get up the inside. And yeah, Walker getting moved done through the inside rather than going around the outside, but washes up a bit wide. Made it look like he'd had an outside move there, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, but he did it. That was a fantastic move there. He just saw the gap, went for it, and was praying for Budsy just to not close the door on him. Otherwise, it could have been a huge accident leading up into that second sweeper. So Walker up into P8. Looks like now Hamza's been able to stretch his legs out in first. So the championship leader, the man that's dominated this Trackstars touring car season, all bearing the first race at Road Atlanta, has stepped on the top step of the podium. Finished P2 in that first race at Road Atlanta, so you could say more or less he's 100% rate. Oh, Palmer almost losing. Holton has lost it. So we thought Palmer lost it, but Holton's lost it more on his cut. Does he pick up damage?
He's avoided damage, but wow, I thought that it was going to be Palmer going around, and then out of nowhere, Muffin has spun himself.
Wow, that is a huge, I wouldn't call it championship implications here. It's going to put a huge effect on this Kyoto 500 here. What has happened here? Does he clip the third apex? He does. Oh, he's just lost it. He tried to hold it and save it, but didn't work there. Thankfully, no damage on that 787. He can praise the racing gods that he didn't get any damage there. But look at the cluster of cars right behind Jarman. He's got O'Shea, he's got Budsy, he's got Ollie Dowswell right behind. These guys want to make some moves. O'Shea's going to try and go for an inside into turn 1. Will Holton cut it off? He does. But that's O'Shea up into 9th. Budsy drops down to P10. Ollie Dowswell's going to try and make a move there, but Budsy's on the attack here. Is he going to go side by side? He does. Does he get ahead of it? He does. Wow, this is some great racing at the back of the field. We can see Punts as well. Ollie Dowswell's come from out of nowhere as well into P11. We can see Kubinski right behind the Polish driver in 12th place after what was a DC. He's not fighting for position as well. We do have to remind our viewers that he's sitting in 11th, yes, but he's down the order in 14th and last place, and is looking to put a move on O'Shea. Does he send it? He does. He goes full send, does the Polish driver. Gets ahead of the man in O'Shea. So, wow, what a great move there by Kubinski over the veteran in O'Shea and Dowswell.
Yeah, O'Shea just looks to be a bit unsettled there in probably the last lap or so, as it looks like Walker just makes a move on Mario there for 6th place, so he's climbing himself back up the order and has really benefited from that red flag earlier on, although Mario getting back down the inside into the final corner. Looks like yes, Walker just had the grip on the exit, probably had the more momentum around the outside coming out the corner, and Mario just had to hold a bit of a tighter line. But it looks like Mario hasn't quite given up on this battle just yet, and we've got Halton on the comeback here as well, sitting in 8th place.
Yeah, that whole chain effect, unfortunately, was caused by Halton making his mistake at the back end of it. So obviously that whole chain of events was unfortunately the undoing for Halton. We thought it was Palmer actually, because we did catch Palmer making a mistake at the corner of the exit of the chicane there, but no, it turned out to be Halton, and he's down to PA. Palmer has done a remarkable job to get the car 95 or car 96 rather. In second place. So it's an Itz Racing 1-2, and boy, oh boy, we are going to be in for a treat in stint 3 if it's going to be Barbara versus Matt Simmons for P1 for the Kyoto 500. It's going to be absolutely interesting. But full credit goes to the Robbo Sport Camp, 3rd and 5th place, not where they were planning to have their race tonight, or this afternoon rather. So top 5 for Robbo Sport Racing, very nicely done there. Campbell still holds on to 4th, and I think the biggest mover so far, the man of the match so far in this after the red flag, has been Walker, Jarman, car 964.
Yeah, he's really taken the most of the opportunities he's been presented, and yeah, really pushed himself up the order. He was probably down in 10th, 11th before that red flag, looking like nothing was going to happen, but it's just given him an opportunity, and he's taken it with both hands and clawed himself back up the order, and now closing on the back of Burke here for a top 5 place.
So Burke in 5th, but he has a hard charger in Walker, who's trying to make amends after his costly mistake in 6th place, or the battle for 5th place. So it doesn't look like Burke's able to close up on Campbell, but we did see that Campbell did struggle a little bit in that early stint, in that first stint of the 34-lapper here at Kyoto Yamagiwa, so they could potentially close up to the back of car number 1. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But looking down the back, we have Mario in 7th, Holson still holding on, still back in P8, Budsy in 9th place, Kubinski, another man of the match performance by the man, the late substitute, in 10th place. Unfortunately, the worst out of it all came to O'Shea. He's down in 11th place whilst he was battling for a top 6, I believe, in that last little section there. He tried to benefit from the mistake that Holton made. Oh, as I say, that Kubinski has gone for caught the curbing there, and that's his race over. Unfortunately, can he get it back into the pit lane? Doesn't look like he's just past the pit entry line, so that'll be him over and out, and that is such an unfortunate end for Kubinski in car 55. We'll see what happens, but I think he just caught the curbing, caught the grass and curbing there, and then it's just sayonara. There's no point of return for car 55, but man, you know, I still give my hat off to Kubinski. He's thrown under pressure in the main series, and he's been battling guys. He put a fantastic move on O'Shea down in this section here, and I would say that's a job well done for Kubinski on his debut.
Yeah, he's been doing well. Obviously, he's still a lap down. Oh, I think Burke just had a bit of moment there, and that's opened the door for Walker. So Walker taking full advantage of the mistake there from Burke, now up into the top 5. And look who's just in front of him. It's Campbell, as both Burke and Walker have closed up to the back of the CP Motorsports number 1.
Really has here. Walker's come from out of nowhere. He's a man on a charge here, starting in 10th place at the safety car restart. Is up into 5th place, could potentially get himself up into P4. It's a long way to go till the end of this stint, ladies and gentlemen, so just hold yourselves tight, strap yourselves in. We've got ourselves 7, 8 more laps until the end of this, but it is going to be Walker trying to put some pressure on Campbell. Both main series contenders, with Walker just ahead of Campbell in the championship standing, so this is going to help him try and get some more points over Campbell and try and close up on his rivals ahead of him. But a fantastic stint here for Walker. It's a shame we won't be able to see him in stint 3. It's going to be handing over the keys to yourself, Jarman, so obviously he'll be trying and get equal performance that Walker's been doing so far in this stint here. Runs a bit wide, but is able to hook it back into that second part of the fast left-hander, so very good job there. So far the top 6 is all occupied by the Nissan GTRs. The first of the Lexus is Captain Muffin in Aidan Holton, who has finally made the move on Mario up into 7th place. But yeah, I'm still in shock after that chain reaction with Holton's mistake up the top here. So that was such great racing, and as I said, Walker's benefited from all of this, and he's not done yet, Jarman. He still wants to make the moves. He still wants to get that car 964 and make your life so much easier in the third stint.
Yeah, not sure if it's going to be easier or harder knowing that I've got Austin behind me if he makes this move. So he's certainly piling the pressure on myself to sort of keep up the great performances as he gets around the outside of Campbell on the main straight. He's going to have the inside line into turn 1.
Wow. He's got clear of Campbell here. He's still going to hold it on the inside. Wow, what a remarkable drive here by Walker in 4th place after starting 10th at the end of the safety car period. That is a huge drive. That is definitely a man of the match drive here for stint 2. He's done really well. He's definitely saved by the safety car, the red flag, unfortunately, that we did see Kubinski disconnect and leave the lobby. Not on his own accord, just unfortunately some hardware failure in car 55, and unfortunately they have a lot of work to do now, but which thankfully for them, they'll be put back onto the lead lap. Hopefully, if we see him, if we try to cross over to him, hopefully he's not actually overtaken by...
Beck's gone around!
There's that contact made between the two cars, between car 22 and car 787. It looked like he just did it on his own there, but I don't know. We'll have to try and see if we can find some replays from our broadcast team, but that is a huge mistake there from Chris Burke in car 22 as he sees all the cars right behind there. The car is just tumbling down the order here. I'm not so sure we can pick it out from that angle there. We might have to try and see if we can get some better on-board footage there, but huge mistake there for 22.
Yeah, not sure if there was contact the first time around, but obviously he was already sideways when the secondary or contact was made in the end. So probably that last part definitely wasn't Muffin's fault, but obviously we'd have to get a better view of it later on from the stewards for them to decide what to do, whether there is anything at all to investigate.
I want to try and see if I can make contact with the broadcast team. Just want to see it one more time because I think he actually hit the rear bumper of that car 22. I think he may have just clipped it as they were coming into the entry. I think we're just there. I think it was just as we just caught onto the replay camera. I think he just may have clipped him. But I do think the car 22 was a little bit unsettled going through that chicane there. I think Aidan Holton was a little bit of a passenger there. Just wrong place, wrong time. Just a little bit of it. Kind of reminds me of the Greg Murphy and Craig Lowndes incident that they had in Winton back in, I believe it was 2004, yeah, for the Winton 500 actually. So very similar situations there between those two events. So I don't know. It's going to be a tough call for our stewards here at Trackstars.
Yeah, certainly. We'll definitely leave that one to a bit closer of an investigation later on. I think definitely a bit hard to make a judgment call as Holton now on the inside of Campbell for 5th place. Looks to get the job done there.
Got it done nicely up into P5 there, so the WTC driver
he hasn't run wide there, which he's managed to get away with.
Very lucky indeed there, but he's getting that 787 back up towards the top 5, and that's going to give him a little bit more relief for Andrew Scott when he takes over the reins of car 787, the Lexus WTC Racing entries. We look down the field, it is Campbell 6. We have, I believe that is
Mario in 7th.
Mario in 7th. We have O'Shea in 8th, and Ollie Dowswell through all of that has come through to 9th place. So a lot of mistakes made by a few drivers. You see Budsy has actually dropped down the order, so the WTC car, I believe, was actually fighting up there, has dropped down behind Dowswell, and then Dowswell's teammate in Sandwith in 11th. Kubinski, after that incident, spinning around in 12th place. Burke, the unfortunate mistake on his end, has dropped him down to 13th, and then we saw Doc in 14th, which I don't think he's actually caught a lap down yet. I think he is on the pit straight.
Not quite a lap down.
No, so I think we can see both Hamzas actually coming up towards the back of him right now. There he is. So it looks like Gorda might just lose that lap on Hamza, so that'll drop him down to the rear of the field as well. But I think we'll just be ahead of 55 once we get all our calculations done. But very unfortunate for Campbell. Looked very strong there, fighting for P2 in the early stages here, Jarman. He did really well to hold his composure, but just unfortunately, just the pressure from both the Itz Racing and WTC drivers, unfortunately for him, it just caught him out, and it's just dropped down to P6. So a lot of work for Jackson Austin to do in car number 1 CP Nissan. But Mario, as I said, also another worthy contender for man of the match there, just holding his own inside the top 8 in both of his double stints there. So full credit to Mario in car 34.
Yeah, he's put on an impressive performance on debut here, so certainly one that you'd consider for driver of the day as well. Of course, I'm probably a bit biased, but my vote would definitely go to Walker so far. He's certainly
absolutely
stepped up to the plate today and really put in some very impressive performances.
Very, very impressive performance there. If we had a few more laps, I wonder if he can actually close up to Mitch Curry, who's holding on to P3. So that is a huge result for car 20, which he will be giving the keys back to Ian Ward in 3rd place. And yeah, I mean, he was behind myself. He was trying to get past me. He thought I was a bit of a roadblock there, but now he's going to be trying to be a little bit of a roadblock for the others potentially. You know, with the likes of Dan Wood, Jackson Austin, and plenty of other drivers, top caliber drivers that'll be coming through into the 3rd and final stint there. So a lot of work to do for Ward if he can hold off the pressure and give Robbo Sport Racing their first podium here in Trackstars Touring Cars in 2023. But Walker, what an impressive driver, man. He has secured 1 podium in race 2 of the Dragon Trail 250. He did a very good job there. And it's slowly growing performances. I've talked with Ryan in the background here in our TS2, TS3 broadcast that Walker is definitely a driver that can fly under the radar in any situation. Like, you might see one race, he might not be up towards the top 8, but the second race or third race, any race that he can do, he'll always find a way to wrestle that car inside the top 5, and he'll just surprise everyone. That's why he's so high up in the championship.
Yeah, I've also noticed that myself. Like, the longer the races get, the more that Walker comes to the fore. He sort of probably places more of an emphasis on consistency rather than outright pace, and sometimes that just pays off really well in those longer distance races, that you keep it consistent, keep it clean, stay out of trouble, and find yourself moving up the order towards the later end of races. As we see, sort of winding down to 2 laps to go now. Field has spread out a bit. Obviously Campbell running in 6th place with Mario just behind.
So sitting right ahead of Mario, who's not really closing up as much, but he's got O'Shea behind him. So the grippier car 50 in O'Shea might be able to try and pull off a move into P7 with only 1.5 laps to go until the end of this 34 lap stint here, due to cause shortened, not shortened actually, it's just paused by a red flag caused by Kubitsky, unfortunately a hardware failure. But the race is resumed and we are on lap, we're about to approach lap 30, the final lap here. O'Shea is looking to put some pressure on Mario, who's also closed up a little bit on Campbell here. So if Campbell loses another position, that's another position that Austin has to try and put on the Itz Racing Lexus. So the gap is closing. It's closing between the battle for 6th place here, between the 2 CP cars and the ISA driver. So very unexpected name there to be inside the top 8, but Mario's done it with a lot of hard work in 7th place there. He's trying to hold off the CP driver in car 50. He'll be definitely fighting these drivers on a regular basis when we return to normal racing for the Trail Mountain 250. But we're on the final lap here for this 2nd stint of the Kyoto 500. Hamza has definitely streaked away with this. Doesn't matter what you throw at him, Jarman. You throw a red flag, you throw a safety car, you throw an incident with him, maybe a little half spin, he still always comes out on top, and that's why he's the championship leader in car 95 of the Itz Racing eSports Nissan GTR.
Yeah, he has been just the class of the field so far this year, continuing to show why he's the championship leader and probably the unbackable favourite for the championship at this point. and he's going to secure 50 bonus points that have been on offer today through the first 2 stints. And he comes around the final corner now, gets a great clean exit and heads towards the finish line. He'll claim stint number 2 for the Kyoto 500 with his teammate Ryan Palmer crossing line in second after starting the whole race at the rear of the field. And then it's going to be Curry setting himself and Ward up for a great finish to the race in third place. And then we have Walker crossing the line in fourth with Halton in fifth.
Well done.
And then we have Campbell 6, Mario
holds
7.
off Mario, and looks like he's hold off O'Shea there. So well done to those drivers there. But seriously, I think before we end the broadcast, I think definitely the driver of the day. If it was a straight race, it's definitely going to be for Ryan Palmer in car 96 from last to second, and giving pretty much the keys over to Matt Simmons to fight battle with Barbara. Oh, as we can see there, Burke, unfortunately, just the race just goes from bad to worse, unfortunately, for car 22. Finishes in 13th, and the last driver on the lead lap with Gordock in 14th. Yeah, it's going to be a spicy finish, and I know you're the team boss of Itz Racing eSports, but you are the driver for WRT Motorsports. I don't think you want to be looking at your drivers fighting for the win here tonight. I think you'll definitely want to be keeping your eyes closed. Keep them open on track, of course, but if you're a team boss, definitely don't want to be seeing these two butting heads in the last lap.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be an exciting final half of the race, and certainly be a little bit sad not to be able to watch it, but also very much looking forward to getting stuck in there as well and being part of the action. So should be a lot of fun in these final 51 laps.
Absolutely. So thanks to our streamer Ian Jarman-Dalitz, who's been doing a fantastic job here in the commentary booth for stint 1 and stint 2. We'll actually have now Ryan Palmer, who finished P2 all the way from last to P2, 3 seconds behind his teammate. But I think Hamza just may have backed off the throttle a little bit just to try and maybe go for a photo finish for the Itz Racing boys. So he's done well. He'll be now the lead streamer in the Trackstars Kyoto 500 for what is round 8 of the Touring Cars, Trackstars Touring Cars Championship.
Sorry, that didn't quite work how I planned it to. Anyway, myself and Nick will have to quickly race away and get ourselves back in the cars for the third and final part of this race. So thanks for everyone for joining in on the stream, and look forward to seeing you soon. And of course, make sure you stay tuned in as we get part 2 set up of this stream or broadcast, which will be hosted by Ryan Palmer. So please join in and see what should be a thrilling conclusion to this race.